And here's your recap of the Wartown Times for the intellectually apathetic. Over a decade ago, a group of Vietnam veterans thought it would be ever so neato if Wartown, Georgia, a city that touts its support of armed forces and veterans at the drop of any hat, might, we don't know, have some sort of memorial to commemorate their service, as well as the service of soldiers who never made it home. The idea evolved into a state Vietnam Veterans Memorial for all of Georgia and was brought before the local government of Wartown, where, not surprisingly, nothing happened. Not in the Walker administration, not in the Shaheen Plaza administration, and most certainly not in the Randy I'm Just a Frickin' Fireman Tom's administration. However, what did transpire in the Randy I'm Just a Frickin' Fireman Tom's administration is that a company called ICB, not to be confused with IPS, was awarded a contract to build a facility with more cages and things to perpetuate legal human trafficking via kidnapping under color of law and arrest of flesh and blood human beings for primarily victimless crimes. This same company was also summoned by the Randy I'm Just a Frickin' Fireman Tom's administration to doodle some plans for the aforementioned State Vietnam Veterans Memorial that for quite some time were not seen by the good people of Wartown, nor the most important group, the Vietnam veterans themselves. Though the yes men of the Tom's administration, playing the parts of city council members, have consistently repeated over and over that the plans are quite beautiful, and we should just trust their judgment on that because after all they paid ICB nearly 192,000 clams of our money for said doodles. Therefore, the doodles must be epically beautiful. Before the contract for the state memorial could be tossed over to ICB to build what our sources say is essentially a gigantic welcome center with an itty-bitty memorial that no one really wants, a sabot was thrown in the machinery of the Rootin' Tootin' Tom's administration by one Ruther Jackson, president of the local NAACP. That's the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and you know how those coloreds are, always complaining about equal rights and protection under the law and whatnot. In this instance, Ruther Jackson made several allegations against the conduct of Randy I'm Just a Frickin' Fireman Tom's while campaigning for mayor as well as in the office of mayor. The allegations complained that Mayor Tom's unfairly awarded a contract to International City Builders Incorporated in 2018 because of donations that individual employees within that company made to his campaign. That both the owner of ICB and two employees donated a total of $7,500 to Mayor Tom's 2017 campaign. That another contractor offered a cheaper price for the project but didn't get the job to build the new law enforcement center. That a, quote, secret committee, end quote, chose the contractor for the project and that the mayor's office wouldn't give details about the alleged committee to the Houston County NAACP. That Warner Robins improperly used City Hall for early voting in 2017. And that in 2013, Tom's told a donor to give a campaign contribution to Southside Baptist Church instead of donating to his campaign directly, which would have exceeded the legal limit for contributions. The complaint alleges that this was done to repay the church for publishing Tom's book, I'm Just a Fireman, in 2013. Of course, as one would expect in Wartown, Georgia, the allegations brought forth by Miss Jackson apparently were dismissed by some nebulous state agency without much of an investigation or anyone actually sitting down to speak with Miss Jackson, head of the local NAACP, whatsoever. Though the allegations were magically poofed away and Randy I'm Just a Fireman Tom's demanded an apology from Ruther Jackson, the good Reverend stood on her complaint and basically informed the press that Tom's could take the idea of an apology and stick it where the sun don't shine. She also stated to the press that the nebulous state agency's determination didn't exonerate Tom's, and he is far from squeaky clean. How the nebulous state agency came to their conclusions without much of an investigation to speak of is peculiar, but of course not uncommon in places such as Wartown, Georgia. Fast forward to the 2021 mayoral election, and the Rootin' Tootin' Tom's administration was completely blindsided by underdog newcomer LaRonda Patrick, who, with the overwhelming support of the citizens of Wartown, took the cabal to the carpet, as well as a runoff election. In a last-ditch and pathetically desperate effort to maintain their control of City Hall and the lucrative contracts that come hitherfore from, a smear campaign against our little town's protagonist was put forth, falsely accusing her of wanting to magically defund the Popo, which is rather ironic due to the fact that there is no place in video or print where LaRonda Patrick even hints at such an asinine idea.
When it comes to fighting crime, the choice in the runoff election for mayor is clear. Mayor Randy Toms is leading the fight against crime, adding 20 new law enforcement positions to make sure Warner Robins stays safe. LaRonda Patrick wants to defund our police.
Many will answer by saying we need more police officers. I don't believe that is the answer.
Warner Robins does not need a mayor who is soft on crime. In the runoff election, let's vote to keep our town a great place to live and raise a family. Vote for a safe community. Vote Randy Toms.
Do you want to defund the police?
Never, ever, ever.
Okay.
No.
Okay, great. I'm glad we cleared that up. That was really easy. In both a humiliating but also hilarious defeat, Randy I'm Just a Frickin' Fireman Tom's had his buttocks handed to him by LaRonda Patrick due to racking up tax liens, lawsuits, and epically failing to pass off the contract for the Unwanted Visitor Center disguised as a Vietnam Veterans Memorial Project to ICB, a company that, let us not forget, contributed many fiat Federal Reserve notes to the Rootin' Tootin' Tom's campaign. With the veterans as well as the citizens of Wartown completely behind LaRonda Patrick, the city celebrated as Randy I'm Just a Frickin' Fireman Tom's packed his things and left the mayor's office stage right. As soon as LaRonda Patrick Patrick was sworn in as Madam Mayor of Wartown, she began to do something that upsets the established order, and began executing the points of the campaign that she ran on to begin with. I mean, can you believe that? A political candidate saying they're going to do certain things only to get in office and actually do them? Who'd have thunk? A part of her agenda was to bring the veterans who first conceived the idea of a state memorial into the fold. Her office put forth a motion to create a committee of veterans to steer, advise, and execute the bringing forth of the state memorial into fruition, which seemed like a good idea to everyone, except a few members of the City Hall cabal, who openly and despicably voted the motion down for some strange, unexplainable reason, which of course has nothing to do with backroom promises for contracts to pet companies at all. Nope, nothing to see here, just move along. Nevertheless, Madam Mayor prevailed at the following City Council meeting by ultimately swearing in the veterans who originated the idea of the state memorial to begin with a committee to oversee the project. Of course, you can't have a heroine of a tale without some villains to throw in the mix, and the first to step into such a predictable role was character Kevin Lashley. According to T-Bone Jenkins and Tanika, who makes me coffee at the Circle K, apparently, just before Tom's left office, there was some sort of Dr. Evil Mini-Me cloning program or brain transfer or something like that between Rootin' Tootin' Toms and character Lashley to preserve the perpetuation of neoconservative bibble-babble. Though he is playing the part of a villain here, let us be clear that this certainly isn't a villain the ranks of, say, Thanos or Dormammu. Rather, character Kevin Lashley falls more in the dugout of, say, a Disney Pixar film villain. Character Kevin Lashley, with his cliche costume of green striped shirt, makes a complete nincompoop of himself by proposing a ridiculous and expensive forensic audit of, well, something, because neither he nor the rest of the City Hall cabal could precisely pinpoint what they wanted to spend tens of thousands of odd dollars auditing. While upon first impression it would seem that great value villain character Lashley is leading the charge to oppose Madam Mayor's determination to see the State Vietnam Veterans Memorial built, the collective Spidey Sense of the Wartown Times team determined that this was more smoke and mirrors from the City Hall cabal. After all, anyone who's watched a good sci-fi film or two knows that there is always an apprentice and his master in shadowy Sith Lord relations whilst undermining republics. From what we can tell so far in the story, is that while character green striped shirt Lashley continues to remind us that they already gave ICB 192,000 smackaroos of our money, and we should just go ahead and give them a whole bunch more, Charlie Bibbidi Bib Bib continues to play pretend that he can't even recall the three-letter name of the company who produced his favorite doodle. Here again is the old switcheroo from the devious duo, and while character Lashley reminds us primarily of a cartoon comic relief villain more than anything, Charlie Bibbles smacks more of a Dick Tracy villain from the classic Warren Beatty film from the 90s, and deserves a closer look under the microscope. Back to you, devilishly handsome author, narrator, and fictional character behind the desk.